Good morning, everybody. This is Winifred Adams here again on Making Life Brighter Radio, and I have a very special guest. We've been talking some deep subjects on this show for a little while, and today we are going to lighten and brighten your world with none other than Mr. Jack Stafford, all the way from Italy. Welcome, Jack.
Hello, Winifred. It's wonderful to be here. Thanks. I've made a long journey to be here. I'm a bit tired, but I'm doing my best.
I love that he is with us today, because I promise you, when we're done here today, you're going to feel brighter and lighter and much more uplifted. Now, let me give you a little background, a proper introduction to this gentleman. He is doing something that is phenomenal in this world. He too is making lives brighter, and his passion has driven him through music and coming out of actually many different things. He's done fashion, he's done books, he's created music, he's been in Amsterdam, he's been doing house concerts, and he gave it all up to go into and across the world to more or less find the deeper meaning. Out the other side, through his spiritual passion, has come this incredible show that he's put together called Podsongs. And Podsongs is a developing and inspired conglomeration of interviews that lead to songs and that lead to collaboration now with musicians interviewing their mentors. So, Jack, let's jump in and talk about what inspired you, first off, to make the journey that you made and doing the 700 house concerts across Europe, essentially. Let's start there, because you left everything behind. Somewhere.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, it's a crazy story. I guess it was a carrot and stick. Always these two elements in every story, the great expanse before you and the fire you've left behind.
You were really interested in music first up. The actual interviews are kind of secondary to your life, even though you're an author, you're interested in metaphysics, you're interested in, the betterment of the world. But tell us about your musical background and how that factored into your journey.
Sure. Well, I was a troubadour. I was always writing songs about people I meet. That's kind of my job. I'd written so many songs about myself, that you run out of material eventually, and it gets a bit repetitive. It gets a bit boring. So you need something new and exciting. So I guess it was that. So I set out on this big adventure. I'd already been way back when I was a musician back in England, and then after university, I needed to get a proper job, I thought. And so I applied for a job as a copywriter in in the Netherlands. And I eventually moved to Amsterdam. But they said, you can write songs, you can write copy. It's the same sort of thing. You have a concept. And I think that developed my songwriting, actually, because even more, I have a concept in every song. There's a goal in every song. It has something to say.
Let's talk about your vision for a minute, because coming from a spiritual perspective, which is a big part of your writing and your life, what is it that drives you inside of that with your music? What is the driving force of what you would like to see expressed in this world?
Well, I'm trying to get people away from the materialistic message that's distorting modern society. You are your car, you are your face, you are your job. I've evolved through a body, mind, spirit evolution. And now I'm trying to get people to, don't dwell on your physical shell. You're not your body. You're not your story. You're not the voice in your head.
I love that.
All of this is what's driving it. Because many musicians, the lyrics are not so important to the song, which is, that's fine with many of my favorite songwriters also, but I think you're missing a trick. You have an opportunity, you have someone's attention, and you can get them to think in a 3-minute song. Whereas, many people just use it as a sort of background and fill in the lyrics afterwards. So I start with the lyrics, and then the music evolves from there.
That's interesting. I told you that I've done music as well, and I agree with you. It comes from the message, if you will. So your message primarily is to get people to contemplate and to wake up. And you've created an amazing show that is now coveted by others and artists and celebrities across the world. So let's talk about Podsongs. how did you come upon this amazing collaboration, really?
Well, it was because of COVID-19. You remember way back when.
Oh, yes. When was that? I don't know.
Yeah, it's distant past now, and no one really talks about it. So, yeah, it was kind of crazy. Locked in the house in Italy, we were under a real lockdown. We were not allowed outside the house. It was a serious lockdown. Not just that you couldn't go to not just the shops were closed, not just you couldn't go and socialize, but you weren't allowed to go and see people and go out of the house.
How did people like walk their dog, or how did they go get supplies, or what happened? How did they do that?
Dog sales went through the roof. Yeah, you could walk a dog twice a day. And people used to be able to rent your dog if you lived in a block of flats. You could say, $5 for a pee, $10 for a poo.
Really? Oh my goodness.
All the pounds were empty. People would all the dogs got adopted. Yeah.
I love it.
In the cities, yeah, it was crazy. But I'm in the countryside, so I did have a luckier time of it. But even then, I'd exhaust myself. I get busy in a paper bag, so I managed to find an outlet and think, how am I going to do this? And I was already doing a lot of podcasts before, and I thought I really enjoy this. This is nice to chat to people around the world, people like yourself, have an interesting conversation, especially in isolation. I'm in isolation most of the time in Italy. I'm in the middle of nowhere. I'm in the countryside. So this podcast, yeah, it fitted perfectly with me, this podcast format. So I wanted to get in the game, and like you, I needed to have an angle. I needed to have something special. And I thought, I'm a songwriter. I write songs about people I meet. Let's just do a song for every episode. And that's the way it became. It's quite obvious now you think about it.
It's brilliant. Honestly, it's brilliant. And the work that you've done is so wonderful. How you put it together and the way it is. I mean, I encourage everybody to look this up immediately. If you don't already know this, you need to go and figure this out and follow along with Jack's podcast. It's Podsongs, and it's called Podsongs, and you can find it all over where you can basically
everywhere.
Yes.
Behind the couch, in the cupboard.
Well, you're actually very thoughtful in the way that you're doing this. And that's what I love the most about it, is it's so well intended, and that comes across so nicely. And I think people appreciate that. The people that you're interviewing, the people that are collaborating with you, they genuinely appreciate it, because the world is so full of the narrative of fear. And yet here you're taking a narrative and you're expanding on the possibility of what could be and what is, and the truth of someone's life. So what's been your favorite or favorites along the way, and why?
Well, I think it's like you. I speak to a lot of different people, a lot of different guests, and many of the guests are doing podcasts full time, being interviewed. So they start to tell the same story as I find myself doing. So the ones that were most interesting were the people who had not been on podcasts before. One guy, for example, who springs to mind, he had a spiritual adventure. He was just a young guy working in Norway, and he was working on a very remote island. And he's quite a spiritual guy, really not above the average for sure. And he was cooking a fire one night on the island in a sacred stone circle. And he got the message somehow that, because he was thinking to himself, wow, Norway is such a wonderful place. All the sort of more food, everyone's satisfied, everyone's got all their needs met. They're really very well developed. Whereas where I come from, an island, there's a lot of poverty, and there's a lack of energy and ideas. And how can I help those people? What can I do? And he had this sort of psychic communication with the diva of the fire, and he said, if you take me back to Ireland, I will bring prosperity to the land. Which sounds like something from way back when, from mythology, but this was a couple of years ago. So the guy said, well, he thought about it for a while, and the weeks went on, and well, yeah, I'll do it if the situation. How would I do it? Because he can't put a fire in his overhead locker on the plane, can it? So he'd have to sail with it, but sailing with a fire is crazy. But one day he was sitting on the bay, on the quay to the island, and this wooden boat sailed up to him. This crazy boat with all carvings. It looked like a real throwback black with all these intricate carvings, and this guy looked like a pirate on it. This sailboat, and he said, "Where's the fire?" And I came into this inlet because I saw the port was on fire and people running about. And this is just this Irish guy sitting there, and he says, "No, there's no fire, nobody here. But I saw from over there. I've been sailing for an hour because I saw that everything was on fire, and I came over here." And he says, "No, nothing." So they got chatting, and he told him about his crusade, his, what should we say, crusade, or his
Inspiration, maybe, huh?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
so the guy sailed with him. They sailed back to another island. It's what they do in Norway. They're sailing around all the time. And after one heavy session around the fire of drinking, the guy said, "I'll give you my boat, which is a fantastic boat, and we'll put a fire in there, and you must do this. You must complete this quest. It's your because it's a Viking heritage." So they filled the boat with really old wood to burn, good heavy oak wood to burn, lots of chopped loads of woods, and they put in a big stove, which could be put on slow burn so that you can it'll last the whole journey. And he set off sailing in the winter in a huge storm, because he says it's got to be done now. It's got to be done now. He's getting these psychic impressions, and they almost sank. And he was with another guy, and they came back. I'm giving you the Rush version of the story. You should really listen to him tell it. And then, so he set off again, but this time he knew it had to be on his own. So another guy gave him sort of life, because he'd never sailed much before. So he gave him real life-saving advice and says, "Don't sail around the winter," because he sailed around the coast of Scotland, the North Sea, in the winter. I mean, there was higher than your building. I don't know what building you're in, but huge seas, twice the height of a bus, and huge storms. And he was shipwrecked once because he was using the engine, sometimes the diesel, and he understood that he had to sail. It had to be taken on by pure fire energy, because there could only be one fire on the boat. So, but anyway, I think this will fill up the rest of the show, but you should really listen to the episode, and there's a wonderful kind of Gaelic song about it. Dara Carroll is his name. Yeah,
very good, very good. So let's talk about your collaborators, your in-house collaborators. Let's see, we have so many things we could talk about. We'd have to do several of these shows, to be honest with you.
You've done your research as well. This is very good.
Force of nature, actually. So no, I mean that you understand that I am dealing in the United States here with very heavy narratives on a regular basis at the moment, and where you are is like where my heart is, and I'm just so happy to do this with you. It uplifts my day. So I hope that's radiating out to everyone, that you have to play in this game. You have to come along for this ride today, because it's so incredible. Okay, so let's talk about your collaborators, because you have these amazing young men that are also I'm going to try and get this right. Okay.
All right. Good luck here.
All right. Massimino, Ernesto, Voza. Did I get that? Massimino.
Yes.
Ernesto, Voza. Okay. And Luigi, Falcione. Did I get that? Okay.
Falcione.
Okay. And Maurizio Sarnicola.
Yeah, pretty good.
Sorry guys, but I was trying. Okay, so these are your fellows that you work with. Let's talk about how you came to collaborate with them and what they add to this amazing show.
Yeah, I've been so lucky to work with these guys, because it's just another example of how, if you get a crazy mission just to take a fire across the North Sea, or to make 100 songs in a year, then you just set yourself to it, and the universe will provide. And these guys were my boat. So yeah, pretty incredible. They're very well known here in the Cilento. We're in the Cilento area, it's an hour and a half south of Napoli. It's like a national park area. It's kind of opposite the Amalfi Coast.
Beautiful.
In front of Capri. Yeah, it's beautiful. But it's because there's such a huge, rich area in front where all tourists go. This area is very, very neglected, very unknown. So, but there's
and rich history, probably, right? You're drawing on?
Exactly, yeah. No mafia much because there was no money here. There's just the olive trees. You know, there's a lot of money in Puglia because they could sell all the olive trees. But here, it's just kind of rocky mountains. So a few fishing boats. There is kind of Angel Keys came to Aciroli and Pioppi. He started the Mediterranean diet, the
Yes.
American dietitian. So
Mhm.
some people live to 100 years here, and it's
It's
just
a spiritual place, is what you're telling me. There's a lot of history and steeped mysticism, it sounds like, in that area. Is that what drew
yeah.
you there?
Um, yeah, it's there is the temples of Pestum here, very close by, which is where Spartacus was strung up. Um, and so the area goes back. It's just yeah, there is huge depth of history. And these guys are the local studio. There's only one studio in Vallo, and the best musician that collect there. And yeah, they just made themselves available. So we work together 1 day a week to make these songs. And Maurizio is the producer. He puts together, he does all the mixing and the mastering and produces the sounds. And Massimino is so he's an unusual because he's a drummer, but he also a piano player. So he can play every instrument on the keyboard through the
Great.
MIDI. And then Luigi, he's sort of and they all have an encyclopedic knowledge of music. So whenever we pick a track, because all the songs are different, we do reggae, rock, indie, folk, jazz, all manner of music. So they have an encyclopedic knowledge and they can play any style. Because my songs are, I'm banging them out. You know, they sound pretty similar when they come out of they're a guitar and four chords, you know, vocals. So, but they transform them. So we pick a reference track. We'll say, well, this is going to be Talking Heads, or this is going to be it's going to be Bowie, or this is going to be MGMT. Then they take that palette and then they make the song. They transform it into a beautiful flower from the little seed that I provide.
I love that. And so do you bring your artists in, the ones that you're interviewing or the ones that are interviewing another artist, do you bring them in to work with them as well? Or do they lay down a track where they are and then send it over? I mean, how do you collaborate that?
Yeah, so it depends on it depends on the artist. Some artists are just singers, they're just top liners, don't even write songs, they just sing. And whereas on the other extreme, maybe there's some people are producers and songwriters, so they do everything at home. So there's this, it depends on the song. Some people are a band, but they just need us to do the drums and add some piano. It's every collaboration is different. But yeah, we're all working remotely and it takes a long time. So I have now about 30, 40 songs in production at various stages, because it used to be, because I did the first 100 episodes, most of them on my own.
Incredible.
So I would write the song. Yeah, but that was actually much easier because it was more, we were just this small team,
Yeah.
I wrote all the songs. And so we did 3 songs a week. We could do 3 songs in a day because we knew we're under pressure. But now it's more like a project management system, because all these different artists have got different speeds of working and sending
Right.
through the vocals. So I don't sing. I've stopped singing now and stopped writing, and I still help a bit with the songwriting if necessary, but I'm just managing emails. So it's not very glamorous at the moment, I'm afraid.
It
That's
always
just a
happens
phase.
like that. You start with a creative project and then it starts to become very successful and flows. And then suddenly you have all this to do. And you're like, okay, wait a minute, we have to pull back here and get back to the heart of the matter of why we began this whole thing. So where are you headed with this project? Like, where is it going next? What's the goal?
Well, you really get great questions. You're really going to the heart of this. Well, to the top of the poppermost, I envisage, because the other major song podcast, Song Exploder, they made the jump to Netflix. So it could be like a TV series. Yeah, quite easily.
That's awesome. Yes.
Because I'm kind of like Louis Theroux with a guitar on my show, and he goes around interviewing crazy people. So that could be an easy production. But I envisage even bigger than that, because it's like I'm a record company now. So this is what I do. I'm releasing singles from all these bands. We release it through my record company. But as we get even bigger, we could release an albums by them. So
Yeah,
I'm releasing more. I'm releasing more music than many indie labels, you know.
like a compilation
And
album,
so,
right? Like you could do like a compilation album and place it. You could have
oh
the
yeah, well,
coolest compilation album, like hit number 1 through 10 on the Billboard top charts right here, just from that. That's so cool.
exactly, because there's this accumulation, because we release it on Spotify. Most labels, they just release it as the artist, but our name is on there. So we're Podsongs. So people see that. So with more and more artists, they'll wonder who Podsongs is. And our Spotify numbers go up because we are collaborating with all. So
Right.
every month we get more and more artists. And so year on year, we'll get more famous artists, and more record companies will say, can we come and do it? And then it grows exponentially, because to get to number one, you'll have to collaborate with Podsongs, you know, because we have such a big listenership. With that collaboration with us will offer you a huge audience. So it becomes this sort of law of the commons, this sort of self-fulfilling prophecy, because it's a race to cut down all the trees, you know.
Yes. Yes.
If that makes sense. Yeah.
Yes. Oh, it sounds like you're about to step into being the next David Geffen in an entirely new paradigm, only bringing a spiritual bent to this whole thing.
Exactly. So I'd like to have our own TV channel, our own radio channel. So you have the episode, we could do an episode every day. Even you have in the morning, you have the artist interviewed with their favorite songs, you know, like Desert Island Discs. And then you introduce the guest, and you have 2 or 3 hours talking with him. And then you do some best of making the song, and then you have some experts talking about the subject, and then there's some songs inspired by the songs that the mixtape is played, you know, the playlist. So it could be a whole experience around the song, around the subject, because we're picking subjects which are really the artist is passionate about, and many other people are passionate about. So it's really, we go down deep on each episode. So they're, you know, all world-changing subjects every day. So sky's the limit.
It sounds so exciting. I think, you know, hats off to you. This is an amazing project that the world needs right now. And I say that very seriously. It needs this because people don't know where to look at the moment. You know, they don't know where to focus. It's like their focus continues to be divided and polarized in some form or another, and perhaps not by their choosing. So in this case, music is such an amazing touchstone. It changes everything in an instant and quicker than anything else, technically. So when you hear a song that's inspiring and you hear something that's allowing you to stay with the contemplation of those lyrics, you're really getting it into the core of your being very quickly. So I think it's a beautiful project. And, you know, I'm honored that you'd come and spend time with us, because I think this is the light that we need. I love it. I love it.
Oh, thanks, Winifred. That's lovely of you to say.
Now,
I wholeheartedly agree.
I think it's just such there's music and then there's music, and we need this next step that you're creating. And you are a force. I mean, you've come from creativity is your being. Apparently you were born a creative being through and through, from fashion to now books. But the beauty is you have this linear ability to hold it straight and kind of go down the line. And I'm sure being in quietude like you are in the mountains or wherever you are over there allows for that focus to continue more easily. Instead of being in the cityscape with all the energies, you're able to kind of tap into the bigger biosphere of your own spirit and pull from that. Now go ahead.
Yeah, there's a Chinese curse, may you be born in interesting times.
Yeah. That is a curse, isn't it? But the challenge is, how much light do you bring to the table? And I'd add this from the quantum mechanics, how much light do you acquire? So there's a thought. And how much can you absorb? And so but you have a focus in the Aetherius Society. So explain what that is and where we're going with that. How did that impact your life?
Oh, sure. Well, this is an interesting story, yeah, because like I said before, I've been doing many albums and many music, and I never achieved any modicum of fame because I always thought the songs were good enough by themselves. I just thought you release it, but I released it to the sound of one hand clapping all the time, and so I didn't really. I was very, you know, I vented energy. Should we put it that way? Is
Yeah.
there a quantum term for this? So
Radiating.
if
You
it
radiated energy. Yeah.
right, but if you, um, yeah, that sounds too positive. I kind of vented it, and so it just off gassed it, and
Got
not
it.
used as propulsion. So no, there wasn't enough energy to be a beacon of light or anything like that. But so I went on this because I was very into Ayurveda before. After all the years of traveling, all those house concerts, I was very discombobulated. But I found this. I got very into Ayurveda, and I found this amazing doctor. And also, I wanted to take my mother-in-law there, so we went to Chennai, which was Madras back in the day, and that's where the Theosophical Society, just as an aside, where Madame Blavatsky, who is the mother of modern spirituality, she had a center there, and she's a powerful force. I think she left a lot of energy there. And I had this very deep Ayurvedic treatment, and it's very pranic, super incredible oils. I was having the treatment as well as my mother-in-law, and I started waking up every night at 3:33 on the dot, every night.
That's it.
Yeah,
When that happens, you're like, okay, here we go.
yeah. So that's pretty weird. I hadn't had anything like that before. And I was doing some pranic breathing as well, and I could breathe. I could do one breath for about 3 minutes. I could breathe in for 90 seconds, out for 90 seconds, and this was real. So I didn't see any angels or any stars, but I looked around because I googled it. What does it mean? This 333, and I wasn't very aware. And it says a synchronicity, and it says look for other synchronicities in your daytime. So okay, all right, it's YouTube advice. So I did that, and I started seeing. I was staying behind a Kundalini center. My doctor mentioned Kundalini. Someone else mentioned Kundalini. I'd never heard of it before. Much detail. I thought it was a kind of a dangerous form of yoga, which it is also. And there's this book called The Serpent Power, which is kind of the Bible of Kundalini. It's translated from Sanskrit, but it's super heavy book, super heavy, complex metaphysics. You need a degree in metaphysics just to understand it. So I went back to YouTube, and I found a series on it. So I'm watching this YouTube series, and then this teacher is really, I just connect with him on a level, and he is a practicing yogi since the age of 3 years old. So he's in America, a big American guy.
We can only
Yeah,
dream of that. maybe your show will help that come along into our modern society, right?
Well, there are all these secret families out there in these advanced yogis, but they don't talk about it because nobody believes them. I mean, he was told off by his teachers for when he was in school for saying that he can see dead people, for example. So he's talking to his teachers, and the teacher's dead grandmother standing right behind her, and he,
I know this well.
okay. So he's been put, he was really put down, but he was in a yogic family, and they did these prayer practices and healing, and he many stories of he prayed for, it was a huge rainstorm, he prayed for rain to stop and made a corridor through the rain, and his brother was practicing sending out the healing energy from his palm chakra, and he could feel it going up and down his spine, and he could see all the divas going through their shopping when they brought home in the nighttime, and all these just as a small child growing up. And so he grew up in this incredible yogic family, and can do spiritual healing, and it can do astral projection. All the brothers and sisters just used to flop out of their bodies in night and go running around the neighborhood, and so he can project consciously to all the realms. And later he did 7 years of advanced yoga practices. So he's not, I don't say he's a master, but he's very realized, and so, but anyway, his teaching on the YouTube channel is very dry. He really goes through, it's not all this his PowerPoint presentations about Shakti and Idam Pingala and the chakras, and it's very dry, but he occasionally drops in these interesting asides, which I picked up. So, you know, I'm in India and I'm expecting Sadhguru or someone like that, but I meet, you know, I'll get in touch with this guy. But
I understand.
it's pretty.
Yeah, go ahead.
But anyway, his teacher. So this story gets weirder, you know. So I'm following the breadcrumbs down the road. Yeah, I mean, I'm gradually getting bigger and bigger breadcrumbs. And so his teacher was, or his master, sorry, was Dr. George King, who was an Englishman. And he was an advanced yogi in England in the 1950s. And he, by himself, after England in the 1950s, imagine there's no yoga studios, there's nothing, right. You know, it's like, but he did 8 hours of advanced yoga practice for 10 years after work. So he'd come home from work and he'd do the breathing and the mantra, and he raised Kundalini all the way up to the crown chakra, and he became a master. And so he is actually the Mahabodhisattva for the Aquarian age. So Jesus was for the Piscean age, and so he is the most realized master for our age. Amazing. So he lived, so he did his work mostly in anonymity. He did very advanced missions, he did projection into the lower realms, so he could leave his body and he'd go through the realms when he took on the dark forces. So he was like a Jedi. So he transmuted, which means kills the dark forces, and that was his mission. Which all sounds crazy now saying it to you, but I'm following these breadcrumbs and I'm getting pies by now. And
I don't think it's crazy at all. It's very much a world I'm familiar with. I understand, and actually quite a bit of my audience is familiar with that. There's some that'll question that a little bit, but when you have these types of experiences, you can't deny them. And then the people come in front of you. It's a bit like stepping into a dream world for a bit, but it's not a dream world. It's just a different dimensional frequency of information, and you're coming into that and you're advancing through it. And these amazing synchronicities line up that show you whatever the truth is that you're supposed to come to. And sounds like you went on that journey. So please continue.
Yeah, well, it's just new to me because I didn't, 2 years ago, I didn't know any of this. So I didn't really, yeah, I'm just a singer-songwriter. So
you are not just a singer-songwriter, my friend. There's no way. Your own fire on that ship is burning bright, and you're about to lead the way into things, I'm quite sure. So I get chills as I say that from head to toe. And wow. I really do feel that you are, a necessary piece to our puzzle in the now space, and then into our, what I'll loosely call our future now space. And you have that gift of vision and humility and beauty of bringing these lessons forward for people. And so how did he impact you now? I mean, you've come to realize his journey now. How are you taking that information and with this society and so on?
Well, the motto of the society is service is the jewel in the rock of attainment. So you serve others and you'll raise Kundalini naturally. Don't do any of these dangerous yogic practices. Dr. King did it, but he said, don't do it. It'll kill you.
Amen.
It'll leave you paralyzed. Yeah.
Amen.
Just service to others. If you live in service to others, like all the masters, all the way up to the sun, just serve others. And this is what I do with the podcast. So I write songs for people in service to others, serve the servers, help the helpers. And because, if you help other people, if I'd done that throughout my life, there's never a moment wasted, it's really, because we always, when we want to go and help something, we always think, I've got to start my project or I'll do this. But it's so much easier when you swim with the river, it's so much easier when you help people who are already helping others.
Yes. And that it's such a contrast in a narrative to what the headlines are. If you open up the headlines, which I won't do, but if you open up the headlines and all you hear is this polarization and, the friction that's coming, and what you're talking about is aligning to the flow, and the flow guides you. It's its own journey, and it's usually a journey that's fairly well protected, I'd say.
Yeah, because there's been many spiritual teachers before, you know, like I've got one in front of me, Yogananda now,
Yeah.
and all the great masters and all the Eastern teachings. They used the teaching of the old ways was that you can go into a cave and you can pursue your yogic practices, your meditation, and then come out, and then as an ascended, you know, an ascend, enlightenment, cosmic consciousness ascension, and then you can be in service to others. But because this is the end of days, this is the, you know,
This is
there's
the
not too
final
much
hour.
time left. Yeah.
Final hour. We need to bring our A game in the culmination of this turnover. And I just love this. Now, just to give people in the audience a perspective, some of your pod songs are broken down into different categories. So it's like science and technology and health and wellness and all that. So in the health and wellness category, which is really where I began, I didn't start with all the political things and the banking and the world, whatever. I began in health and healing. And so this is of my interest personally, but you've had Dr. Bernie Siegel on, you've had Cohen Vernder, who does urine therapy, you've Dr. Neil Bernard, who's about veganism and animal rights. You've had so many interesting and groundbreaking people, especially Dr. Martin Koldorf, and you have some different points of view there as well. It's amazing what you're doing. And I'd say in a way, just naturally bringing to the table, because others that are doing this are getting a bit of polarized backlash, but you have a nice way of doing this. And I would love it if you would be willing to play us a little something to show your beautiful musical skill. Would you?
Sure. Let me get my guitar.
I'd love to have you do just that. All right.
Hang on one sec. I'll just tune up.
Yeah. I'm grateful that you're willing to do that.
No problem.
There's another thing for young people that see this as well, and for parents that only see a work in front of them and a paycheck. It's so important that children learn these skills and take an instrument and have one that they perfect their whole life. It's a gift personally and otherwise. It's a skill set you can always benefit from throughout your entire existence.
Yeah, it's true. And especially with this TikTok generation and everything going from, you know, 30 seconds down to 15 seconds down and in time, this rush to the bottom. And it's important to do things that take more time but have a better results.
I have a quick question for you before you begin playing. I always ask musicians this, and we've had a lot of musicians on Making Life Brighter and people that have worked with like the Beatles and other people. What is your favorite key to play in and why?
I think G fits nicely with my voice now. This is in G.
It's funny, I was thinking that about you, but the G is comfortable for you. And I'm going to ask you another kind of weird esoteric question. When you work in G, where do you resonate with it most? Where do you feel it in your being?
Or in the heart, I think. Yeah.
Okay, very good. Please.
All right, so this song is called Don't Dwell on Your Physical Shell. Don't dwell on your physical shell, it's temporary, borrowed from the sun, yours and everyone. The physical plane, here vibrating, all that's born's disintegrating, not physical, only fleeting, carriages to the souls you're meeting, ephemeral, transient. Use it while you've remnants. Your body you made, it wasn't God. He'd have done a better job. Don't dwell on your physical shell. It's the only thing you see. Your dark matter matters more. One day soon you'll see. on the astral, fulfilling desires, in the flames or in the fires, ephemeral, transient. Use it while you've remnants, standing out, here vibrating, all that spawns disintegrating. Your body you made, it wasn't God, he'd have done a better job. Don't dwell on your physical shell, 'cause it's the only thing you see. Your dark matter matters more, one day soon you'll see.
Woo! Yay! Don't dwell on your physical shell. I love it. I love it. There you have it, everybody. Now I'm going to be humming that all day long. Don't dwell on your physical shell. I love it. Oh, Jack, this is such a pleasure. I really want to have you back on and go deeper into some of the quantum and with music too. This is so cool. You're taking something and you're including the world, and that like literally gets me right in the heart. It's a beautiful mission, and you are a beautiful light. And so taking your musical talent, your incredible creativity, and moving it forward for the betterment of all mankind. I think, you know, you are an example to young people, especially on maybe where we're going, not necessarily all the narratives that people are saying. So you're defying the odds of what can be in a pandemic, and you're doing it. Where would you like?
Give me an obstacle. There are no obstacles, only hurdles. You need things to push against. You need more problems. You need these things to create. You know, a diamond is made under pressure. You know, smooth seas don't make a good sailor, and any other cliche you can add in
there. Who's your favorite author?
Dr. King. You know, I mean, yeah, I have always books, and he's just an amazing writer, which is difficult to find. You know, his description of so he went through ascension, which is, you know, what Jesus went through and very few masters went through. And just to read a description of ascension is beyond words. Yeah.
Does he talk about the study of light and sound?
Yeah, he says light and sound are the same thing, exactly the same thing, and anyone who tells you differently,
does he
believe him.
Study is there a study within what he's done for the light and the sound? Is it just meditation, or how does that get incorporated? Do you know?
So he didn't really do meditations. I mean, he was yogic breathing exercises and mantras.
Okay.
And so in mantras, sound is the most powerful thing, and that will, because
force, yeah,
because there are so many yogic practices, and he selected the best ones for our 6 breathing exercises, and if you recite these mantras, which are so powerful, you know, that's all you really need. Any sort of other mental exercises are sort of, because these, I guess, they go beyond thought. So yeah, the problem is my mind, not so.
Well, see, what you're creating is helping people still their mind, or else use it more productively, one or the other. And
I guess I'm a gateway drug to the deeper things.
Touche. I love that. Well, there you have it, everybody. Jack Stafford and Podsongs. So you need to go to podsongs.com and jackstafford.org, and you need to check out his amazing work and his inspiration and all the cool things that he's doing out there. So tell us again where everybody can find these pod songs in these episodes. Is it on iTunes? Where is it worldwide?
Yeah, it's on Spotify, your Apple podcast player, on YouTube. You can watch the video I'm uploading now. I didn't start with video before, but now it's on YouTube, and there's music videos there. Podsongs.com has everything. So yeah, it's pretty easy to find. Just Podsongs. Yes, an easy name.
It is an incredible mission, and I don't want to downplay it at all, because I think this is going to carry through and resonate for a lot of people, and I hope they circle back to this and check it out and enjoy your all your work, because it's a huge body of work so far. I mean, it's an incredible endeavor that you've done diligently. And so we're going to be awaiting your next steps for sure. And we'd like to see you
Thank you.
back here with us again, making people's lives brighter. And thank you, Jack.
Maybe we could chat about, because I started another podcast as if life wasn't busy enough, called the Mystic Cast.
There you go.
And this is where I talk because I did many spiritual songs on the show, but many of my audience, I'm trying to reach everyone here. So in the different taste groups, and not everyone was into all these spiritual episodes. So I've had to take that on to another side project called the Mystic Cast. And maybe you could come on and we chat about the physics aspect of metaphysics. And
oh yes, please, yes, let's do that. That's wonderful, really wonderful. And would love to explore all these things because people are waking up despite what the world sees as a bit of a negative narrative. Many people are catching the light that the earth is emanating right now, and I say that specifically, like the earth is emanating light. It's not just from the top down, and we have an opportunity to take that in. And so yeah, let's go there. Let's do it.
All right, brilliant. Looking forward to having you.
Yes. Okay. Well, I would just like to say thank you so much. And I always ask everyone one question: what makes your life brighter?
Well, speaking to people and exchanging ideas like this. Yeah, this is all everyone wants, even from the lowest hells, the darkest black magicians, they all want attention from someone else. They all want we all want in the way we've come to understand love. We want that to be communicated to us. And the problem is the only crime on this earth is ignorance. And we've come to understand it. We've come to communicate in distorted ways. But if we just get back to that a pure way of communicating, a pure energy, then everything else will just fall into place.
Well, it seems to me what you're doing is no bit competition, but actually cooperation. And the cooperation is bringing people together and creating a new something that is beneficial for all. And that seems to be your mission and your theme.
It's evolved. It seems to be evolving into that. Yeah, I never set out with a big plan, but
well, that's
yeah, I just always been. Yeah, I'm an inclusive guy. I guess my mission this time around is to bring people together like this, and yeah, I think it's working, and people are loving the energy. They get to speak to people who they respect, and they get to make their art. The musicians get to make their art in a more meaningful way in an altruistic fashion, and I think that's in a little way that's helping everyone evolve. All the flowers come into bloom, hopefully.
Beautiful. On that note, we'll leave you to make others' lives brighter. Go jolly today. And
all right.
Jack Stafford, everybody, jackstafford.org and Podsongs. So share, send it out, send out light to the world. And we will see you next time here on Making Life Brighter. Thank you, Jack. And we will look forward to speaking with you again and visiting you on your show as well.
Thanks, Winifred.
All right. Go jolly, everybody. We'll see you next time.